What's up, guys? It's Will here, and today I want to show you the story of Jeff Kinley, the man behind Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I was very surprised by his story, and basically, I want to highlight in this video one specific thing that he did, and I just thought it was fabulous, and that is turning your limitations into your strengths. I think that's a very, very important point because a lot of people, they hit a limit or they hit something where they're not as good as other people, or they can only do things in a specific way, maybe a mediocre way or a unique way, and they view it as, oh, I can't get further and that's it, I have to give up. But this man, he used his limitations to create this whole book series empire. His books have sold over 100 million copies, and his journey was very, very long. It did not happen overnight. So what is his limitation? Again, this piece of advice has to be used in very specific ways. I don't think you can use it in a broad sense and just, blindly follow it. But for him, it worked. And so what's his story? He worked for a lot of companies all across the board throughout his lifetime after graduating school, and this involved a bunch of different things that he really wasn't fully involved in. Some careers he was, but he did what he really loved on the side, which was newspaper cartooning. Now that's a very hard career to get into and make money off of, so he did it for fun on the side for many, many years and tried to draw and submit his proposals, and it would take him 7 to 9 months to do so, and he'd get rejected constantly. And there came a point where he realized that his drawing skills were just not up to par with other people's. He likened it to capping out at a 6th grade drawing level, and at first most people would view that as a limitation. Oh, I'm not a good drawer, and they would have just given up there. But as far as art goes, I think it is so subjective, and there's different ways that you can bring about your strengths from doing so. So if you've ever seen the Diary of the Wimpy Kid, the drawings are on a 6th grade level, but they are cool and funny drawings, and they add a lot of humor, and the story and plot really just brings about how the whole thing is. It's almost intended to be a 6th grade humor sort of thing. So this is what this man said. He said that my illustrations just weren't professional grade. My skill level had topped out at that of a middle school kid, and I knew it. Accepting this fact was tough, but at the same time very liberating. It's what eventually allowed me to have my big moment. Now I think that's huge. If you're trying to pursue a career as a comic book artist or a manga author or an architect illustrator or a realistic portraitist or a contemporary modern art painter, sometimes it's not working up because you are limited by your artistic skills. And in his case, he was very creative. I think that's very important. Being able to be innovative and creative and think outside of the box, outside of the box. And so, long story short, what did he do? He chose to use that as a strength rather than the other option, was just saying, I give up. I can't draw on that level. And it just so happened that there's many industries and niches that can work where you can draw on an amateur level and play that as an advantage or the whole purpose of your artistry. And so, that's it regarding that topic of using your limitations as strengths. But I just want to share with you more of his story. It was a very, very long story that took many, many years for him to get through. So he wanted only the best material to come out. And so he would spend all this time sketching things out and only take the best sketches with the best stories in them And it ended up taking 8 years before he completed his project, where he wanted 77 idea pages of his best quality content. I mean, that's a long time, 8 years. And before that, he was a graphics and headline writer. He worked for a medical school. He worked for a medical software company. And then he eventually worked for a games designer. So it was kind of all across the board. And he was doing this on the side when he had free time. Eventually, after a lot of work, he finally managed to pitch this idea to someone who would allow him to air daily episodes of his Diary of the Wimpy Kid comic strip on their educational website. And that worked for about a year and a half. Eventually, he started pitching these ideas to publishers. He got a lot of rejections, to a point where people were emailing him and rejecting him before he had even asked, just as a preemptive rejection, which was in certain ways devastating. He likened it to the prettiest girl in school telling you she doesn't want you to ask her out to prom, even though you haven't even asked her. Look at the common threads of persistence, perseverance, hard work, and patience. He went to Comic-Con trying to pitch to publishers. He couldn't get a ticket, stuck it out, managed to get in on the day of somehow. And when he was there, he was told by a lot of people that, you're so ridiculous, this isn't the place to do such a thing. This is not a place to pitch to publishers. And I've heard similar stuff on my end for different things. Oh, this is not the place to do something like that. And guess what? He stuck it through. And eventually he met a publisher who was willing to consider looking at his work. And I just thought it's very amazing, because that publisher, after seeing samples of his work at Comic-Con, said, "You're exactly the person I was looking for at this convention." And, half a year later, Diary of the Wimpy Kid comes out, and bada bing, bada boom, millions of copies sold. So there's even more to the story, and this video is getting kind of long, but I can't help but tell you a little bit more just to illustrate. So when he met the publisher at Comic-Con, who eventually got his work published, he decided to buy one of the books that this man was selling in his booth. I think this man did something ingenious when he met this publisher. I don't think he realized it, but I think it's very important. It's a little bit of social intelligence and understanding how to be a salesperson, and just, a savvy, smart, socially smart guy. He chose to buy a book from this man before even trying to sell this guy on his idea. And I thought that's very important. Had he not done so and just rushed in and tried to pitch his thing and show all these samples of his work and shove that in his face, he would not have had the opportunity or time of day possibly for this man to consider. And I just think that was really cool. Additionally, although his drawings were very, of the level of a 6th grader, he had made his content for an adult audience. There's nothing that was adult rated in terms of the actual content, but he thought that the humor and irony that were used in his jokes were too complicated for a child to understand. However, his publisher really wanted to push for this book to be towards a child's audience. And eventually he accepted that, and lo and behold, it blew up. This book blew up. And I think that's very, very important, because I think that, children are smarter than you think. And as I grew up watching a lot of TV series, I really understood a lot of jokes that were kind of adult related. Not all of them, but they oftentimes required, a more complicated understanding of plot and so forth to get the joke. And I think that's why a lot of series these days are getting really popular. I think that's why SpongeBob was successful, one of the reasons, and why Family Guy was successful, because these children could understand that. And I mean, personally, I think SpongeBob, if you look at some of its best episodes, there's content in there that an adult could appreciate, and there's stuff in there that could be on Family Guy. So I just think it's really awesome that this all sort of worked out, and all these things came together. I heard about his story through this book, getting there. But thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. What's up, everyone? So I decided to do a vlog outside real quick. It's quite interesting how this place is. Check it out. It's got like, look at that view. So there's water, and then there's this weird structure behind me. Anyhow,